I started this YouTube channel and it has completely changed my life, so let's talk about it. Welcome to or back to my channel. I'm Sarah and I'm so glad you're here. I really miscalculated the measurements with this coffee and this is basically just oat milk. Anyway, I have never done a Q&A before because honestly I think I was scared that I wouldn't get any questions. So when I posted on YouTube and Instagram that I was doing this Q&A, I was so surprised to see how many of you had great questions for me. So thank you so much to everyone who commented. Another reason I wanted to film this Q&A is because there are so many new people here. In the last 30 days alone, I have almost doubled my subscribers, which is just crazy, and I wanted to reintroduce myself, say a proper hello to all of you, and celebrate my first year here on YouTube. Today is gonna be an all talking video, so if you wanna do your laundry, cook your dinner, whatever you're doing, that's totally fine with me, or you can make yourself a nice drink and cozy up and let's chat. Like I said, I got so many questions, so I had ChatGPT help me with categorizing them in a way that kind of makes sense. So I'm gonna make chapters, so if you are more interested in one of those categories, go ahead and jump to that, or sit back and relax as I go through all of them. I kind of want this video to just feel like you're on FaceTime with a friend, just yapping, even though it's very one-sided. But if you do have any comments or questions after this video, please go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them there. Okay, let's get started. I have not prepared this very well. I don't know how many questions we're gonna get through, but I'm gonna try my best. Okay, the first category is life in Copenhagen. I have gotten so many questions about living in Copenhagen, what I love about it, what I dislike about it, and whether I see myself staying here. So let's dive into it. The first question is my favorite and least favorite thing about Copenhagen. I don't know that this is my favorite thing, but the first thing that comes to mind is definitely how beautiful Copenhagen is. And I'm not just talking about like the architecture, but the people, the fashion, even the food is beautiful, the interior design. I think you have to look far to find a more beautifully curated place, which is a blessing and a curse, I think, because you have to come to terms with the fact that you are never gonna be walking down the street and just feeling like $1,000,000, because the streets of Copenhagen is basically just a catwalk. My least favorite thing about Copenhagen, and maybe Denmark as a whole, is how conform it is. I think Denmark is a socialist country, and for the most part I really love that. I love how we take care of each other. I love our welfare system. I feel very safe here. But Denmark, being this socialist country, has also resulted in a very conform culture where everyone kind of looks the same, especially here in Copenhagen. Everyone votes the same. There is like a very narrow path you have to walk to not stand out here, I think. And I think most of those norms are quite positive. However, I also think Danes can definitely be very judgmental, and Copenhageners especially can be very judgmental if anyone wants to do things a different way. So that is probably my least favorite thing about Copenhagen. I've also gotten so many questions with people asking me how I found my apartment or if I have any tips to find an apartment. Copenhagen is definitely a very trendy city. All of my favorite YouTubers have been in Copenhagen this summer and made Copenhagen vlogs, and it's definitely getting a lot of good press right now. You can definitely tell as a local. I do want to preface that I am not from Copenhagen originally. I grew up in Aarhus, which is the second biggest city in Denmark that no one knows about. So I moved here a couple of years ago, but right now a lot of people are wanting to move to Copenhagen, whether that they're from Denmark or from all around the world, which is amazing and welcome to all of you. But the housing market here is definitely very difficult. It is like anywhere a big plus to know someone, but if you don't have a rich uncle who owns a bunch of apartments and you don't have any friends who has rich uncles who owns a bunch of apartments that you can then rent, the rental market is kind of crazy and it is very expensive. Copenhagen is a very expensive city. My biggest tip is to start early. It takes a long time to find a good apartment here. So if you don't know anyone, really, the only options you have for renting here is to sign up for different websites or Facebook groups and just apply and apply and apply. I think I probably have applied for 200 apartments before finding this one, which sounds crazy, but there is a website called Boligportal, which is the biggest rental website here. The competition is so high, so So you really just have to apply for a lot and check it every single day. It costs a fee to sign up for the portal and be able to message different landlords. I definitely would say pay for that. Write a really good message about yourself and you're gonna get so many no's and you're gonna get so many messages saying, we received 500 messages on this apartment. Unfortunately, we did not choose you, blah, blah, blah. You're also gonna be invited to so many open houses with 300 of other people, and your chances of getting those, again, really low, which is why you just need to apply for a lot. Also be prepared that moving into a rental apartment here is very expensive. It is very normal that the apartment will charge 3 months of prepaid rent and 3 months in a deposit, which means it's not unusual that a move-in price at an apartment is anywhere from 30,000 crowns to 100,000 crowns, depending on the size of the apartment, which is absolutely crazy. And I don't know how they are getting away with it, but they are, and there is really just not a lot to do about it. Now, all of this only really counts if you are looking to rent out a whole apartment to yourself. The other option is to sign up for Facebook groups where private people will rent out rooms in their apartments, or maybe they will rent out their whole flat for a period of time while they're traveling or studying abroad or something like that. Usually those will be better priced, but of course you will not get your whole own apartment that way. And the competition is still very high. You will have to write a super charming message about yourself. For this apartment that I found on Boligportal, I was one of 300 people messaging, but I think I was one of the first few ones. So he picked out 5 people to come view the apartment and then chose me because he thought I seemed trustworthy, I guess. So unfortunately, I do not have any hacks on how to make it easier. It is just a jungle out there, but you're a tiger. You can do it. If you are someone who is looking to move to Denmark, I say go for it. I think I'm obviously biased, but I don't think there are many places around the world that are better cities to live in. And Denmark, obviously, as a country, has an amazing welfare system. That does not mean that I necessarily see myself living in Denmark for the rest of my life, but we're gonna talk more about that a bit later. The next category is career and studies. I have gotten so many questions asking about what it is I do for work and also what I studied. So let's start with my studies. I actually have a film degree. I have a professional bachelor's degree from Via Film and Transmedia back in Aarhus, and my degree is called Multi-Platform Storytelling and Production. As the name suggests, it is a very contemporary film school that focuses on classic media as well as new media, cross media, how storytelling is evolving with the digital age, how to tell stories designed for specific platforms or designed to follow people through different platforms. So throughout those 3.5 years that I was studying, I produced fashion films, commercials, short films, music videos, social media campaigns, all kinds of different types of media. I chose to specialize in producing while studying there. On top of the productions we made as a part of the education, I also produced numerous short films outside of school hours because at the time I was very certain that my dream was to become a film producer, and I loved it. It was amazing. I met some of my favorite people in the world, and some of my best friends that I hang out with all the time are people I met while studying. It was also very intense and competitive, and I was definitely battling with stress while studying and producing all these short films on the side, but I do not regret a single thing because it was also a very magical time for me. I had the chance to go on exchange, so I went to Paris for 4 months, which was just amazing, and afterwards you had to do a 6 months internship, and I interned at a production company in Copenhagen as a producer's assistant, which was amazing, and that is actually where I work today. I graduated in January 2024 to an industry that was under a lot of pressure. I came out to the industry in the aftermaths of COVID, and a lot of production companies were struggling a lot financially. So when I graduated, I did not have high hopes of finding work. It was very difficult. So luckily I live in Denmark, where you get really good benefits when you are out of work. So so I went on like a graduate benefits for a couple of months while applying for work. I got to a few interviews, but my experience was very much that people with way more experience than me were also interviewing for the same job, so I didn't get any of them. And eventually I got tired of living on benefits and I decided to take a job as a nanny. So I did that last summer for a couple of months before eventually my old intern place called me up and said they had someone resign from a position and whether I wanted to come work for them. So that is where I work now, and I've been there for almost a year and I love it. So I'm very fortunate to have a full-time employment in an industry that is still struggling, even though I do think it is starting to find its feet. So now I work as a development coordinator in a production company that makes TV series. I work specifically in the development department. So we are overseeing the earliest stages of a project until we reach green light, and then it moves into a different department that then will go out and produce the actual show. So we specifically work with funding, pitching, selling TV shows to different broadcasters. So we work with some of the biggest streaming services like Netflix and HBO and Amazon, and we are juggling around 40 to 60 active projects in development, trying to attach the right creative people, create pitching materials and presentations for the shows that really sell the show in the best possible way, pitching it to the broadcasters. And I am the coordinator in this department, trying to make sure that everything runs smoothly and everyone is communicating properly, and I am hosting a lot of meetings. I also have a bunch of interns that I am in charge of and making sure they have something to do. And then I'm also in charge of all our incoming pitches. So we are receiving a bunch of pitches from different people all around the world who wants to write a TV show. Maybe they have an idea for a show and they will send it to us, and I will be the first person to review it and see if I can see some potential. I absolutely love my job. It is very dynamic. I love all of the tasks. It is very creative but also very administrative. I love working with all these creative people and trying to create some order in the chaos, and that is what I get to do every single day, so that is amazing. A lot of people ask me for advice to how to get into the industry, and truly, this is a cliche, but truly it is all about network, and I would not have gotten a job now if I hadn't interned for free at a company for 6 months. So I would say definitely intern. I think the industry doesn't care much about your degree, it doesn't care much about if you studied something, but I do think that studying film, going to film schools is so important, because that is where you get your network of people, and if it also includes an opportunity to do an internship as a part of your degree, that is just the best possible thing you can do if you want to get into the industry. I will also just say practice, make a bunch of short films, because the chances of you just submitting your idea for a script and sending it to a production company and them actually taking it in is very rare, if not almost impossible. And you need to just practice your craft and accept where you are at and work your way up slowly. If you want to be a director or a writer, you have to direct and write to be allowed to direct and write professionally in the future. And my last piece of advice to anyone wanting to enter the film industry would be just, are you sure? It is an industry that without a lot of money, at least in Denmark, we don't have Hollywood, you know. People are generally not paid a lot compared to how much work they're doing. You definitely have to have some sort of passion that makes it meaningful to you to do, even when you are overworked and underpaid. And the older I get, the more I realize that having a steady job with nice working hours and a good lunch and a fair pay is very important to me. Which is why I'm so happy to actually have an office job at this point. I hope this is not demotivating. I'm just asking you to check it. I love my job, but the dreams of becoming a film producer have definitely dwindled over the years, looking at the producers, seeing how hard they work, and I don't really think I want that life. Moving moving on to the next category, which is my YouTube journey. This is why we're here, so let's talk about it. I have gotten so many questions about my YouTube journey from a bunch of people who are just curious, and also a lot of you who are considering starting a channel, someone who had a channel once but didn't stick with it. I have gotten so many questions and I am so excited to talk about it. I've gotten questions like why I started, how I came up with the idea, how I overcame the fear of beginning, how I balance my job with YouTube, what is the hardest part about YouTube, what I've learned, all kinds of different questions. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about it. So I started my YouTube channel a year ago, like I've mentioned a few times now. It was pretty spontaneous, but also not. I think I am someone who has watched YouTube since I was a young teenager. I used to watch Zoella and Joe Sugg, Alfie and Casper Lee and all those British YouTubers. I used to watch Jack Scap. I used to watch Bethany Moda, Daniel Carolyn. I definitely grew up with YouTube in its prime, and I think I always had this like tiny dream of wanting to start myself, but I never did, and I don't know why. I think really it is just like the fear of what other people will say. Like I've talked about earlier, Denmark is a very conform country and people are very judgmental if you want to do something differently, especially if that different thing is about putting yourself out there, assuming that anyone will want to hear what you have to say. We have this thing in Denmark or in the Nordic countries called the law of Janteloven, which is basically like a social rule that you should never think you're better than anyone. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I think Danish people are very humble, and I think that is a very charming quality in a person. However, I also think a lot of Danish people are being held back from pursuing their dreams because they don't want to seem like, hey, look at me, look at me. And I definitely think that has just been what has been holding me back this whole time. That along with the fear of failure, obviously. Like, let's be honest, it would be very embarrassing starting a channel, putting yourself out there and no one wanted to watch it, especially when you are a teenager or a young adult. And I think for me, having my interest in film that I developed very early, I've always had this idea about what art is and how some art is way superior to others, and you had to watch all these specific films and listen to specific music, and the older I get, the less I care about what other people think, and it is so freeing. I don't think 22-year-old me could ever imagine the life I'm living now. She would think it was so cringe, and by Danish Copenhagen standards, I think I am pretty cringe. Being an adult wanting to start a YouTube channel, I think objectively that is a little embarrassing, but I am just embracing the cringe, and it really is the feeling that I have broken free of some invisible shackles and I'm just starting to live my life. There is nothing more rewarding than living your true self, being authentic to who you are and what you like. I have completely fallen in love with pop music over the last few years, whereas a young teenager and young adult, I would only listen to what I thought was cool and the cool people liked. And now I am the biggest Swiftie of them all. I have fallen back in love with reading because I finally accepted that I am a romance girly through and through. I love romance and fantasy and I will not be shamed for it. And I am someone who loves YouTube and has always wanted to start a YouTube channel. And honestly, if you ask me, there is nothing more cringe than an adult who is living their life to please other people and to try to be cool for everyone else but themselves. So for the past few years, I've just really been reframing what it means to be cool. And I have never felt cooler. Despite being more cringe than ever, I have never felt more confident in myself, because I now know that I am someone who, if I have a dream, I'm gonna put myself out there, I'm gonna go for it, and I'm not gonna be stopped by what other people think. And that feeling makes you honestly feel superior to everyone else. Any friends who are not supportive, PS then they aren't your real friends. anyone who comments negative stuff, it really honestly does not get to me because I pity them. I pity other adults who obviously have some insecurities holding them back from pursuing what they really truly want to do, and because they are too scared to go be their authentic selves, they're gonna come at other people for doing it. I don't mean to be harsh because that was me. I used to be so judgmental, and obviously that was because I was jealous, and it's such a cliche, but I used to judge everyone putting themselves out there. But now that I'm doing that myself, I see other people doing it and I am so proud of them. I find it inspiring. I see other people's success as a motivator and an inspiration, telling me that if they can do it, I can do it too. And even if it's something I don't relate to or don't understand, people living their authentic selves and doing what they want to do, I just think is the most beautiful thing. If you're getting like cringe feelings when seeing other people just living their lives and being happy and enjoying specific things or putting themselves out there, if your initial response is to just cringe at them, you really need to look in the mirror because you are lying to yourself about something. This is a journey that I'm still on. I am practicing every single day not to care about what other people think. I'm still very selective about who I tell about my channel, and with it growing as fast as it is right now, like my cover may be blown just around the corner, but fact is right now not a lot of people I know about this channel, which is so funny because you don't owe anyone to tell them what you're doing. A lot of people ask for my tips to getting started on YouTube. I say just don't tell people. Which may go a little bit against what I was just saying about not caring what people think, but for me, I just made a new email address. I made a YouTube, a TikTok, and an Instagram account using this email address. I changed my name. Sara B. Holt is not my real full name. And decided that I don't have to tell anyone because putting yourself out there, starting out, it is fragile, and you don't want to put that responsibility in the hands of someone that you don't trust to take care of it. So I only shared it with people that I knew were gonna be supportive of me, and anyone where I felt like, oh, they're probably gonna think it's a little embarrassing, I just didn't tell them. And all of my coworkers still don't know. I'm very much enjoying the fact that my job and my YouTube are completely separate, not because I think my YouTube channel is embarrassing or I'm ashamed, but it definitely is a big help for me that I'm producing videos for my YouTube without ever thinking, oh, I wonder how this person is gonna see this. I wonder how these people are gonna, I wonder what they are gonna think about it. I wonder if they're gonna think that's cringe. Even though I think I'm at a point where I would be able to work through those thoughts pretty well, I don't want to set those barriers for myself. I don't want to make it harder than it already is. And I think just being quiet and just doing it for myself has been the biggest factor in me continuing to do this every single week almost for the past year, and also being authentic in what I share on here and whatever I think is fun that I want to share with you guys. I don't know that I would have been able to be as authentic knowing that everyone I knew would be watching as well. You don't owe anyone to tell them what you're doing. This is your thing, it's your life. And whenever my coworkers ask, oh, what are you doing on the weekend? And I know like I'll be filming all weekend, I'm just like, oh, nothing much. And that little white lie isn't gonna hurt anyone. I know a lot of people will be judgmental about my channel, and that's completely fine and they can do that, but that doesn't mean that I'd necessarily want to deal with that on a daily basis. I don't want people to be like, oh, so what are you filming this weekend? And then them having like a snide tone in their voice where I can tell like, you think this is so lame. I don't want to talk to you about it because I think it's cool, and that is completely up to you. However, I do think that you should handpick a few people that you tell about this, of some people that you know are going to be in your corner, that you know are going to be supportive, that you know are going to watch all your videos, comment on them. For me, that was my lovely partner and a couple of my girlfriends, and that has been very special actually for me because I do think that the people closest to me are very proud of me for doing this. And to them, it probably wasn't such a big surprise that I am someone who would want to do this. This video is going to be so long, I'm so sorry. The hardest thing about doing YouTube is definitely for me just the stress of it. Balancing a full-time job with doing YouTube is so much harder than I could have ever imagined. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you guys. The reason why I can post a YouTube video every single Sunday on top of my full-time job is because I have said goodbye to almost everything else in my life. This may not be the case for everyone, but I am just gonna talk from my personal experience. I am so surprised with how much time and work and effort goes into making a YouTube video. I would have never thought that it was that much work. I was definitely on the other side of things thinking like, oh, they are just like at home, just like filming their regular lives and then just being paid for it. But when I'm telling you, it is hard work, and I don't want to complain. I don't want to be like, oh, boo-hoo, it's so hard being an influencer. Not at all. If I did not have a full-time job on top of it, this would not be a hard job. Laying bricks, that's a hard job. Being a surgeon, that is a hard job. Being an influencer, that is not a hard job. It is not. But trying to sustain a YouTube channel and maybe a couple of other social channels on top of a 9-to-5 regular job is the craziest thing I've ever tried to do in my life. It is essentially, for me, like having 2 full-time jobs. I spend at least 30 hours a week on my YouTube channel, at least. Filming is one thing, the editing takes such a long time. Editing takes forever. I saw a Danish YouTuber I follow called Karoline Stordal at some point say that for every finished minute of a video, it has taken her an hour to edit. So a 30-minute video takes 30 hours to edit. And I don't know that this is bulletproof, but it definitely is not completely off, which is crazy. But with the uploading, the editing, the finding music, doing the sound, adding text overlays, watching everything through to make sure there's nothing embarrassing hidden in the background. It takes such a long time to edit, even if it's just like basic video without like a bunch of creative side plots and whatever. Even this video where I'm just sat talking is gonna take such a long time to edit. And then on top of that comes thumbnails and then writing up captions and coming up with ideas for new videos and then answering all the emails that will start to come in if you are looking to start making some money from it. It is such hard work, and I had a few people comment that, oh, I used to have a channel but I couldn't sustain it with my job, or just people asking how I do it. I'm sorry, I don't have like a fix-all trick that makes it easy. For me, it is just saying goodbye to a lot of other stuff. I have basically completely stopped drinking while doing this YouTube channel because I don't have the time for a hangover. I don't remember the last time I had just a full day off just relaxing, because you are always behind. You always feel like you should be editing or planning or putting in more effort. And I am not a perfectionist. I think that is also something that has made this possible for me. I am not a perfectionist, and I have had to put out a lot of videos where I thought I could have done so much better, but I have just prioritized just putting it out there, posting pretty consistently, even if I didn't end up loving the outcome, which I know for a lot of people would be very difficult to do. I think for me, I don't want to rob myself of the feedback on those videos, and I do always do my best with the time I have, but I am just in a constant war with time. Apart from the fact that I barely drink anymore, I've also significantly lowered the amount of time I spend with my friends on a weekly basis. I have my weekly dinner club with 2 of my girlfriends, and then occasionally I'll have something on the weekend, but for the most part I am straight home every day after work to edit. I used to work out every single day. That is not sustainable anymore because a lot of the time I'll need the time in the mornings before work to edit as well, so that has significantly dropped. I used to read for an hour or 2 every single day before bed. Now it's a couple of pages max because I will just be editing, so it definitely comes with a lot of sacrifice, for me at least. However, I have not once since starting this channel considered for a second not to continue doing it, and I don't know what it is that is driving me. I just love it. And even on the hard days where I'm just like, I don't want to film because I just need a day off, it is just so rewarding for me to keep pushing myself, to produce, to be creative, to put it out there, to share my life with you guys, to get your feedback, to see the channel growing. I don't know what my plans are with this thing, but I just know that I'm loving the process so much. So for me, it's just all worth it. And I do think that in many ways it has just made me a better person for reasons I have already touched on, but also a better partner, a better friend. I am just too busy working on this project to be my neurotic, controlling self in other aspects of my life. And the last thing we need to touch on with this YouTube thing, I had so many people ask me, do I get paid and how much and how does it work? So I do get paid from YouTube ads. After a couple of months of producing videos on YouTube, I reached 4,000 watch hours, which is what you need to become a part of the YouTube partner program, which essentially means that you can start getting ads onto your videos and start making money off of those ads. I think I hit that mark in November or December, and for the first couple of months I think I earned like 10 pounds or something very, very low off of the ads on my videos. However, over time that number has just grown, and with my back catalog of videos growing, so does my income, which is very cool because people not only watch the new video you post every week, you also have your whole back catalog that people will slowly watch. So I may not be earning a lot of money per video, but all of those small amounts every month combined make an addition to my income that I was not expecting within the first year, which is so cool. In Denmark, we do pay almost 50% in taxes on everything we earn, so it is not a lot of money. It is nowhere near where I would be able to quit my job and just do YouTube, which I am also not sure I would want to if I had the chance. We'll talk more about that later as well. And for the first many months, the money I spent was way more than the money I earned, with all the subscriptions I have in regards to the channel, with the money I spent going out and buying decor or taking myself to the movies or cafes or whatever I wanted to do to film it for the video, for equipment, for hard drives and all that kind of stuff. I was losing way more money than I was earning, which in the last couple of months that has tipped over and I am starting to make a lot more money, which is so cool. And specifically for me, it is because I've had a few videos go really well. I think at this point my average views on a video is around 7,000 views or something like that, but I will have the occasional video that is over 100,000. I think my biggest video right now has almost 250,000 views, which is just insane. And those few videos are what I earn almost all of the money from. And if I didn't have those few like viral-ish videos, I would not be making a lot of money. And I also am not making a lot of money, but it is very nice that I'm no longer losing money from doing the YouTube thing, that I am earning a little bit. And I understand that it can be really irritating to watch YouTube videos with ads through them, but I hope you will just remember that those ads are kind of like the payment I get, and you sitting through them is the reason why I can keep producing these videos for you for free, because you pay with your time in watching the ads. And that is essentially how YouTube AdSense work. On top of that, I have done a couple of collaborations with brands. I have not done it a lot because I think it is very time consuming. Honestly, it is something that I probably would like to do more of with specific brands. I would love to reach out to some brands that I actually want to really work with, but even that process of sitting down and contacting brands is just another thing on the to-do list, taking time away from producing the video. So as of right now, I am not prioritizing reaching out to brands, and only if someone contacts me where I think, okay, that is actually a very cool brand or I see some kind of value in, will I accept a collaboration offer. Again, living in Denmark, we have to pay tax off of all the gifts that we receive, which means I decline a lot of products that people want to send to me simply because it would cost me money to receive that thing. By no means does the amount of money I earn from YouTube come anywhere near to being a fair like hourly wage compared to how much time I spend on it. I'm sure you've heard this a lot, but you definitely have to do it for the love of it and because you enjoy it and because because you're getting something else out of it. Because doing it for the money, you definitely could pick another trade that you could practice and within a year make a lot more money than the amount of time I've spent on doing YouTube in this past year to where I am financially with it now. I do think that there are many things I could do to up that income that I am just not prioritizing right now, because really I'm just trying to make the best videos I can with the time I have and grow the channel as much as possible, so I'll have the best options in the future for whatever I want to do with it. But it definitely is very, very cool that I'm starting to generate an income as well, and it actually can support my life here in an expensive city in Copenhagen. I just think that is so cool, and I would have never dreamed of that a year ago when I started. The next thing that a lot of you guys wanted to hear about is my relationship with my fiancé James and my experience with doing long distance. Someone wanted to know what my relationship with his family is like, and of course the elephant in the room, the fact that we're engaged and I never talk about a wedding. So let's dive into that a little bit. So James and I met when I was studying abroad in Paris back in 2022. We met on Tinder. Yeah, we had a super cozy coffee date, and then we basically spent 3 months together in Paris where we almost didn't leave each other's side. We were just crazy about each other and everything went really, really quick. So the situation was, after my 4 months of studying was up, I would move back to Copenhagen. James was in Paris while he was studying remote at his uni in England, and he really didn't have any plans other than just, if he's gonna study remote, then why not go somewhere else? So he went to Paris to do it, but eventually he was planning on going back to England to continue his studies. So with us having just met and having completely different trajectories for our future, we decided that we were just gonna date while we were here, and it was just gonna end come December, and we were both on the same page with that, and we just liked each other so much, so we didn't really want to hold ourselves back. We wanted to just enjoy the time we had together, which we did. And James had this thing where he said we had to like go through a whole relationship in the span of 3 months, so we would have to just do everything 110% so we could get to the breakup really quickly, get sick of each other essentially. Only that just did not happen, and obviously we just got closer and closer, and by December, when I had to go back to Copenhagen to start my internship, James said, hey, you know, I don't have to be anywhere else. I'm just gonna write my master's thesis at this point. Should I just, you know, like come back to Copenhagen with you? And I would have never asked that of him, but when he offered, I was so excited. So as soon as he found a job that could sustain him while he was there, he came and moved in with me in Copenhagen. And I had an apartment that I was gonna stay in for 6 months, where I was gonna live alone. I was basically house sitting for someone I know, so I had the space. So James ended up moving with me to Copenhagen while I was doing my internship, and he was writing his master's thesis, and we ended up living together in Copenhagen for maybe 4 months or something like that, before he then got into his PhD and had to move back to England, more specifically Leeds, where he is living now. And we have been long distance ever since, which is kind of crazy. Of course, being long distance comes with its up and downs, but I think for the most part, James and I are making the most out of this time of being long distance, and I think we're doing great. I think it was definitely more difficult in the beginning, because when we first started being long distance, we hadn't really been together for that long, and we didn't know each other like we do now. And I think being at a more vulnerable place in the relationship, where you maybe are a little bit more insecure in the connection, it was a lot harder than it is now, where we are just so secure and happy in the relationship. So we used to fight a lot over silly things, because I think both of us were just not feeling too secure in the relationship. And then being long distance, you kind of have to ask yourself pretty early on, like, oh, is this something we want long term? Because otherwise it doesn't really make sense for us to be long distance right now. So you don't really have the luxury of just taking it day by day and seeing where things go anymore. And that was definitely difficult in the beginning, but I think in the 3 years that we've been together now, we have just both grown so much individually and together, and we have never been happier than we are right now. And I definitely feel like we are such a strong couple, and I think a lot of people would look at the relationship and think like, yeah, but you're living in different countries, how can that's not even a real relationship? But I'm more worried about what other people think than I am actually worried about our situation. It is working so well for us. We are so excited for our future together, and whether that's gonna be in England or in Denmark, which we don't know yet, we are just both so hopeful and positive about our future. So for the most part, I'm not worried. On most days, depending on where I am in my cycle, honestly, I just feel so happy and excited thinking about the future. And then every now and then you'll have like a bad day where you'll think like, oh, but what if it's not gonna work when we finally do live together? And what if it's not gonna work when blah blah blah? And what if when it comes down to it, he's not gonna want to move to Denmark, or I'm not gonna want to move to England, or something like that? But it takes up such a minor place, because essentially I just love James so much. I've never met a person like him. There is no one else I would want to spend my life with. So whether I'm gonna move to England or he's gonna come here, there is just no one I'd rather face that with. There is no one I'd rather have children with. And no matter the challenges that we're gonna face in life, I just know that I will do it with him by my side. And that just brings me so much calm. But at the same time, we are both really appreciating and making the most of this time that we have separately, because fact is that James still has another year and a half left of his PhD in Leeds, and until he has a full-time job and makes over a certain threshold and we are married, I cannot move to England and get an English visa. I simply do not meet the requirements without him, so I cannot just move to England. James can move to Denmark because his mum is actually from Finland and he has a Finnish passport, which means he has an EU passport, which means he can move freely to Denmark whenever he wants. However, he still has a year and a half left of his PhD. So fact is, for the next year and a half, we can't really live in the same place, and we could decide to let that stop us from planning a future together, or we can make the most of it, and I definitely feel like we're making the most of it. I've talked about how time consuming it is for me to have a YouTube channel. I honestly would not have the time to sustain a relationship on top of it. I would not have the time to have a full-time job, have my YouTube channel, and have another person's needs that I would have to cater to every day. And I am just at a point with this right now where I enjoy that I get to be selfish, because I know that this is not how my life will be forever. But I am gonna just go ham now and see how far I can get with my career in film and with my YouTube channel, so that I will have the best possible possibilities in a year and a half when he will move here, and maybe we'll start trying for kids, who knows, or I'll move to England and maybe I'll be able to get a job in the film industry there. Maybe I will be able to go full-time with YouTube. I really don't know, but I know that the more work I put in right now, the better my opportunities will be. And same goes for James. James is working so hard on his PhD in psychology and artificial intelligence. I'm so proud of him. But on top of that, he is also pursuing a career within acting. He's been pursuing acting for just a little bit more time than I've been pursuing YouTube, but for the most part we've been like following each other along in these creative pursuits, and it has been magical, honestly, for us as individuals, but also for us as a couple, that we have just been able to be each other's cheerleaders and biggest supports, and I wouldn't have it any other way right now. We just have such an understanding for what the other person is going through, and we talk on the phone every single day and are just able to be these big supporters for each other, and it is just so special, really. I am just so proud of him. I fall more and more in love with him every single day for seeing how hard he's working and how he's pursuing his dreams. I cannot stress enough how much of an impact him doing that has had on me starting this YouTube channel. I don't think I ever would have if I hadn't met James, who is someone someone who just has unshakable faith in himself, who will back himself 100%, who will go for all of his dreams unapologetically. That faith in himself is something that he has instilled in me as well. That is where we are at right now. We're both just working on becoming the best possible versions of ourselves, and things will have to change eventually, which is what we know, which is why we're prioritizing doing this right now when we don't have kids and we don't have all of these other responsibilities. I'm just really proud of us, and we are both really, really happy with where we are at. So we're gonna keep doing it our way, even if other people may look at it and think that sounds weird. Anyway, let's talk wedding. So we got engaged last December on my birthday, and right now we are just loving being engaged. This is another way of us to committing to each other and promising each other that this is what we want to do, and we will figure out our situation one way or another because we just want to be together so bad. I don't think there is anything much more romantic than being engaged, and we're definitely both romantics. However, of course, we do want to get married eventually. I have struggled with the idea of a wedding and what kind of wedding I want since way before I met James. I've never been someone to dream about a wedding. I am someone who generally actually gets stressed pretty easily, and I feel overwhelmed pretty easily. For me, thinking about planning a wedding, all I see is just more work. Like, I have enough work to do. I don't want to plan a wedding, and I also don't want to work for years saving up for a wedding. So we don't yet know exactly what kind of wedding we want, but we do know that it's not gonna be a big classic white wedding with all of our relatives and all of our friends. It is gonna be small and intimate, but I do know that however we decide to throw a wedding is gonna be a reflection of us, and we're gonna do it in a way that feels right to us, and it might be unconventional for other people. I also think there is an element of James doesn't drink and I barely drink, and partying has never been a part of our relationship. That has never been something we shared. We share a lot of other things, but not really partying or going out. So the idea for me of just like having a big party to celebrate our love doesn't feel authentic really, and we're still trying to figure out how we want to celebrate our love with the people we care about in the best way, but we're not rushing. So moving on to the next category. I was supposed to talk about my lifestyle and favorites now, but this video is gonna be way too long, and honestly, it's not that interesting. So if you want to hear what's on my wish list and what are my favorite skincare products or whatever, ask it in the comments and I'll try to get to it in another video. But we are gonna skip ahead to the final category, which is future and dreams, because we are kind of talking about it already. So let's just keep digging a little bit. It's getting very real and personal. Some of the questions I've received in this category is, where do you see yourself a year from now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Are you gonna live in Denmark? Are you gonna live in England? Are you gonna have kids? All these kinds of things you're very interested in, which I understand because of course you would be. Those are also the questions I ask myself every single day. So let's talk about it. A year from now, where do I see myself a year from now? In a dream scenario, 1 year from now, it would be the summer of 26. I will have hit like 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. I will make enough money so that I would be able to go part-time in my job. We will have planned the wedding and had some kind of plan for where we're going. Something that James has taught me is to just not dream too small. He has taught me to dream so big, and who knows, a year from now, James could have starred in a big Hollywood film and we will be living in LA. Or he will have had consistent work as an actor and will be able to put a down payment on a cottage in the English countryside, and I will say, fuck my job, I'm gonna go to the English countryside to pursue YouTube full-time. Maybe I will be pregnant, maybe not. Or maybe we will be... The camera literally just said that it was overheating and I had to give it time to cool. I've never tried that before. This video is gonna be so long. What were we talking about? We were talking about my future with me and James, but I think The short answer is I have no idea, which I think is so exciting because I feel like I'm at a point where I'm just so confident in myself and in James and in our relationship that I don't think anything can really go wrong. It's not that we're just going into it blindly. Of course, we have conversations every single day about like, oh, and then if we're in England, do we want our kids to go to private school or do we want this and blah blah blah, and what if this happens, what if we split up, and how would we do that with... You cannot plan your life. You never know what's gonna happen. So all you really can do is just like move with what feels right in the moment. And that is something that I have really struggled with in the past. But the more confident I get in myself and in us, the more calm I also feel, because I know now what I didn't know a year ago, which is I have the persistence and will to start a business and work really, really hard at a project that I'm passionate about and eventually making money from it. I know that about myself now, and I have confidence that if I wanted to eventually take this YouTube thing full time and make money from that, I could. I don't know that that is necessarily the life I want to live. I feel very whole right now because I am doing other things outside of YouTube as well. But with James by my side, this is so corny, but I honestly just feel like with James by my side, with his support and him backing me up, I think I could do anything. Just his unshaking belief in me makes me believe in myself, and no matter what we face, I can take that situation and turn it into something really cool and make my own happiness, whether that's in Denmark or England or somewhere else. So whatever happens, happens, and I'm not gonna plan anything, because if I were to plan something right now, I would have to rule out the possibility that something even bigger and better would come and happen to us, and I don't want to do that. So we'll see. We have so many different shared dreams, and some of them may come true and some of them won't, and I trust that amazing things will happen that we have not even dreamed of yet. So right now I am just so happy and positive about the future, whether we are gonna move to the Danish countryside and buy a big farm and make a homestead and James is gonna fly out and do his acting jobs all over the world, or if James is gonna get a contract on the West End in London and an apartment there, I might go there. Maybe they're gonna change the visa laws. Maybe England is gonna want to come back and be part of EU again, and everything will change and I'll be able to just move there and find a job. Maybe tomorrow I'll see a job post for a job I really want to apply for here in Copenhagen, and I am gonna prioritize my career here, and James is gonna come and find a job at a university with his degree or a company. And no matter what happens, I think because of the hard work we've put in, all the possibilities are good and positive. And if not, if everything fails, we have really enjoyed the process. So what else can you do? Right now, I am just feeling really happy and content and stressed at times, but content and fulfilled. And I have a beautiful life here. I'm cherishing every minute I have in this studio apartment all to myself, where I can do my daily routine and film my little videos and put them online, and all of a sudden it's not so little anymore. And I'm just so happy that you guys want to watch it, and that for the first time in many years my future feels open, and that feels really good. So thank you so much for being here. I love every single one of you so much. I cannot tell you how much this means to me. And if you sat through this whole video, wow, thank you. I promise next week I'll be back with a vlog, and just around the corner is gonna be all of my fall content, which I am so excited about. I'm so excited for the cozy seasons and for sharing my love of romanticizing life with you guys. So this was very different, but thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.